Hey Yuri,
Oh, hi Alan. How's it going?
I'm good. I'm good. And you?
Good.
Nice.
Just uh, 5 meetings in a row.
Oh crap. Okay.
So it
I'm
was
searching. I'm
yeah,
searching for the Valencia trip. I'm booking it, trying to find the best flight to go there.
cool. I also have to do this. Mm. Need to spend some time.
But at least I'm back to Brazil finally.
Yeah. Yes, Alan, this meeting is recording, so it's better to discuss our personal stuff
Oh yeah.
outside.
I
Hi,
forgot that.
John.
Hello. Hi John.
How's it going?
Great. How are you guys?
Oh, we are fine. A lot of work, as usual, but so far so good. Recently, we elaborated the project for proof of humanist for Discord channels using Identus, LaceID, and some other KYC providers. So I believe that probably in a couple of months we will show something.
Very cool.
Hi, Fabio. Fabio, do you have a link to the deck, or if you want, I can share.
Can you share? I was waiting on the other meeting, so I was in the wrong meeting.
Really?
Sorry. Yeah, I need to remove that link from my calendar.
Do you want me to share desktop or share the link?
Just the slides.
I will send it here.
While I prepare. Oh, you want me to present? Okay.
Yeah, it will be fully under your control.
Yeah.
Hi, Roberto. So it's a fourth minute, and yep, I guess Fabio will hold the meeting today. He has a great update and some kind of workshop that we wanted to share with you.
I'm trying to share.
How many
Hello,
screens
hello.
do you
Too many.
Yeah,
Not as
we can
many
see the
as
screen
you.
now.
Okay. Okay, so welcome to the community meeting of Identus. So it's just here the antitrust policy for microledger that everyone should follow, and the code of conduct that we should follow. Just basically don't be evil. Okay, so is this the right slides? So for today's agenda, I think the only thing that we have is the new VDR specification. So from last week, what we have is we talk a little bit about the specification of the data model for the credential. And on Swift, I think Gonçalo was talking about it, or Yuri was talking about it. So we were discussing those specs. We also mentioned about this VDR milestone that we did.
I can add that Socios wrote in the Discord that they don't have the issue with mediator after upgrading to the newer versions. So we
Okay, that's good.
going to continue monitor this, and yep, fingers crossed that everything is going to be fine. And the part is still working on the issue with the revocation list to cover this with additional integration tests, but so far so good.
So we have those reported on GitHub. We are tracking then the mediator is fixed, right? So they just upgraded to the latest version and it fixed their problem.
Yeah,
Okay, that's nice to know.
one problem, and there were at least 2 or 3 problems.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but you mentioned the problem that is blocking them. That is the one that is using the keys and it's expecting a certain type of key. Yeah, so that part is being resolved. So do we have a plan for when we are going to do a release of the cloud agent with that
It
fix?
depends.
Or
It depends. Probably we will release a patch next week, but it took longer than we expected. Probably
Okay.
this.
Yeah, we have a PR now, but after that, and we're gonna go into the release process.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
ask Alan to check that everything is fine.
So it's just you are just resolving some problems with the test, right? But that is conflicting because
Yep. I was fighting with the test, and now everything passed, so it should be good to go. And waiting Alan to sign off the next release. Yeah.
So did you open an issue about the test not being pure? So some tests depend on other tests. I think you should open an issue about that.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
Yeah. So okay, I'll present the VDR now, the specs. So let me just switch to find it. So you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the specification for the VDR that we have that is using the Cardano as the source of truth. So this specification is very similar to the DEED Prism itself. So it's basically using the same logic. It uses the same metadata label. It's written on Cardano mainnet, and it's very similar to it. It's not a breaking change on the DEED Prism or extension. It's basically on the side, so it's something more that it also does. So basically, we can think that the DEED Prism is part of these specs. So what can I say about the specs? So this specification basically creates a new type and on the protobuf, a new model that is used for everything that it was used before. So the SSI that is converted to the DEED Prism, to some legacy document that was using from the Atala times, the Mercury tree that was used for signing credentials, and it's adding a new model for storing any type of data. So just to specify how the thing works. So everything on Cardano is immutable. So this specification allows us to define some reference to some data and modify that data. Yeah, and it's all based on building a chain that modifies previous operations on that data. So on Cardano, what we do is we do a transaction where we put on the metadata we put on some specific label on that metadata we put a protobuf that is a model for representing this data. So the goal of here is to each reference builds a chain that allowed us to modify previous operations. So, and we encode different types of data. So the first one is the most important is the SSI, the self-identity. That is basically the D that we have. So we have like a create operation, update operation, and deactivated operation. So as I mentioned before, this already exists. This is part of the DEED Prism.
Fabio, can you zoom up a little bit. You have a lot of black space, and it will be
Oh,
easier.
sorry. Thank you. Yeah. Can you see better? Yeah. So, how I was going to say, this is part of the Edit Prism specs. We didn't change anything. This is basically the same thing. It builds a chain, and that's it. And we have, and if you want to create a D document, that's basically what we want from DIDs, decentralized identities, is to create a D document. We can follow the other specs that specifies as how this data model converts to the D document. So until here, we didn't change anything. This already exists. We only add a new type of new key type. So we added the VDR key on this model. So it's a key that is going to be used for signing the other data that we are going to add. That is just any type of data that we can. So I think we can skip this. This is basically what is on the other leads, and unless you guys have questions, it's basically the rules on the basic rules on the deed. So a deed, the create operation must have a key, a master key, and it must sign with that key. So it needs to be self-signed, and any other update operation or deactivate operation needs to use the master key that is on the state of the deed at the moment that the operation is inserted on the blockchain. So with we get update, it must be signed with the key that was on the create operation or on any other update after that.
Fabio,
the key must be on the yeah.
I would add that it's a really important part of specification because it adds meaningful constraints to the resources that are being created. You need to have a deed with particular criteria, and we enforce all drivers to follow this convention and spec to have consistent results and don't have some orphan data. So any other data that are published without it will be ignored according to the spec, which is pretty cool and consistent.
Yeah, I have some examples at the end that we can discuss about to allow us to create a discussion about this. So, but basically, this is the rules that was defined on the DID spec again. So the key must be of a certain type, because we need to be able to validate. So we only have certain type of keys, and then any other type of keys that we can have in the D document, those don't need to be validated. The user needs to concern about those keys themselves. But the master key needs to be on this type, the same way that the VDR key needs also to be on this type, because the indexer needs to be able to index and validate that the events are well signed. Here we are just using some notation about how to refer to the protobufs. So everything that we put on the blockchain is protobufs, and the only thing that we care about is the position on those fields. So we define the positions instead of using names. I'm using the positions on here. So the 6 is the create event, and the number 1 refers to the in this case in the update event refers to the previous event on there. So this is just a notation. Again, the identity itself is when we insert the create event, the identity or the reference to that SSI, it's the hash of the event itself, and any other update needs to refer to that one or to the previous events. So those rules existed before, and the same way it works on the storage entries. So this is the new part, and it's also similar to the previous one. So it also has a create event, update event, and a deactivate event. Here, the create event doesn't have the keys, but instead it has a reference to the owner. So it refers to the SSI that was created before. So it doesn't need to have any information inside the SSI. You just need to have the master key, because any SSI needs to have a master key, and it needs to have the VDR key, because all the entries in this VDR entry needs to be signed with that VDR key. So the first field on the create event is basically referring to the SSI, and on the update event refers to the previous events that refers this storage. So maybe I can go to some examples, and we can continue to the specs later, just to exemplify this more clearly. Not sure if you can see. So basically here we are building a chain. So imagine that we have like all the events on the blockchain. We filter by this by a reference, and this reference basically gives us a chain. So all of those are different, what we call events. So there is a create event. From this event, we create the identity of this entry. So in this case would be the identity or the reference to this piece of data. And on top of that piece of data, we can put update events, and the events need to refer to the previous one. So this update needs to refer to the create event. This update needs to refer to the previous update event, and until it gets deactivated. So after that, in this state, it cannot be activated anymore. So this is a finite state, and this is the initial state of that entry. So imagine that we have like events that are come out of order, or that refers events that are. So this is one of the rules, that the valid chain needs to be the oldest valid chain on the block that we can validate. So from this reference, imagine that we can get all those events from the blockchain, but just one of the chains can be valid. So we need to validate the chain itself. So in here, imagine that this event is valid, this one is valid, and this one that comes before the deactivate event is invalid. So since this event that comes next is referring to an invalid event, those doesn't matter anymore. So basically the state of the content of this entry only cares about these green states.
Fabio, but the update event was third, as far as I can see. And the fourth event, the deactivate, should be.
Yeah. But I'm giving an example where this event is not well signed. So let's imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry. What constitute a valid event is not that it was created first only, before, like say, update number 3 is invalid because it's not correctly signed, and update number 4 is correctly signed. It came after number 3, but it's valid. So that one's the priority, of course. But in case of both, can both events be valid, and then they only fight of like whose update is first?
Okay, I may have. This was an example where I was going to say that this event is not well signed.
Right.
So,
okay.
Then everything's fine.
Yeah. So let me go back to the specs and read the rules. So let me start to say that we wanted to be backwards compatible on any extension of this. We want this document to be able to be extended and be backwards compatible, but we also want to be forwards compatible. So we are reserving some fields for validating what it means to validate the event. So from field 1 to 49, we say all those fields the indexer needs to validate the event for building a valid chain. from field 50 to 99, it's just metadata. So let's say that a node, the indexer, doesn't need to care about the information in there to validate the event. And after those fields are the types of data that we can encode, but I'm going to refer to this next. So let's imagine that we have an indexer. So to get from a reference to get to the content of that data, there are 3 steps. There's a step that is indexing all the blockchain and a group the events that refers to some reference. So put those all together.
Fabio, I
don't think we can hear
You are
you.
without sound. We cannot hear you.
He lost the audio, I think.
I guess, yes.
Well, Zoom
We
is
need
getting
to
nice.
Battery.
Yes, probably better.
Yeah.
1 minute for technical. Oh, yes.
Sorry,
You are back.
sorry. So I'm not sure where we lost it. So I was saying that there is like 3 steps to get from the list of events to have the content of the data. So the first step is to get all the events into a group that refers about some identity. The second one is to build a chain from those group of events. So the events have an order, and we have rules for validating those events. And what it matters is to be the longest, the oldest chain of events that are valid. And from that list from that chain of events, we can extract the data and build the final data. So imagine that you are implementing an indexer, and basically there are 3 states, main states. So the reference still doesn't exist, or the reference to the VR exists and is like active, or it's already deactivated. And there is an additional state that it covers like future implementation. So if one of those fields from 1 to 49 appears and the indexer doesn't know what is the rule to validate those fields, it goes to an unknown state and it cannot say anything about that state. You can only say that is deactivated if the owner is deactivated, because all the VDR entries that has the owner deactivated is also deactivated. So the rules are it needs to validate all those fields. At least one needs to be present. It needs to be signed with that field. The number 1 is present. It needs to be signed with the VDR key. The key needs to be of a certain type, and it needs to be the key from the owner when the event is put on the blockchain. So let's imagine that the owner rotates the key after creating the event. The event is still valid. So rotating the key doesn't invalidate the event. All the events have from the blockchain as an order, and the order is basically the order of the blockchain. So the oldest the transaction, the oldest event, and the oldest event that is the one that matters.
Question.
Yeah.
When you sign, you are just signing the first events, like the first event types from that previous transaction or the current transaction, not the other metadata, right? Not the whatever is 50 plus, or you sign the whole thing.
Okay, I have the protocol. You signed the whole thing.
Okay.
So the same. It
It's
works
not.
the
It's
same
not
way.
like you ignore the other metadata for signing the next event. It's all together. It's just like those numbers are for specific compliance of the rules of the event, but not for the integrity of the whole event. Is that correct?
For what I understood, yes, that's
Okay.
that's correct. Yeah. So what we sign is this structure, the same one that we have on we added before, so that this structure didn't change. So the signature goes here, and it needs to be signed the hash of this event. And this basically refers to which key is used to sign the event. So this is the thing that is signed. So this is signed, and this can be any of those types. So these 6 types existed before. So the create, the update, and the deletion of the event. Those ones are from the legacy, from the older Tala. For it was basically Mercury trees that was batch of credentials. And those 3 are new. So all the data inside of this is signed, and is put it in here, and it can be grouped with several events together, and this is encoded to the metadata on Cardano.
Right, and you're limited to that sort of package size. It's like
Yes.
NFTs are not like meant to put the whole file or asset in. I mean, you could if it's very tiny, but essentially you put the hashes of the files and URLs or whatever you need on the metadata, as little as possible to represent the data. And the other thing is just checks for the keys and the events of that regarding that data.
Yeah, so this has a lot of the properties that comes from Cardano. So it's distributed because it comes from Cardano. It's like is permanent because we assume that the Cardano blockchain will be here to stay. And in terms of order, it has the same properties as the oldest the transaction, the first that it appears in terms of time. So we have the Cardano block. The Cardano block has a bunch of transactions. Each transaction can have a metadata, and on that label is where we put the Atala, the Prisma block, and the Prisma block can have a bunch of events, and the events can like be associated with the deed or with some storage entry or so. But in terms of space, all the Tala block needs to fit on one transaction metadata.
Right, including the metadata that you put associated with the event.
So the signing part, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So I'm thinking how would we use it? Say, for example, we have a document that we want to sign, and we have to modify the document because we attach signatures to that document. So here's the raw document. There's a hash for that document. Then somebody signs, changes. For me, that will be an update event on the VDR saying, hey, this is, so-and-so signed, and this is the new hash of the document. And whoever else signed updates that again. And I'm just, chaining events of whoever is modifying that payload and having the whole chain of those events saved on Cardano for me to verify later the history of the whole file. Is that correct assumption? Like if this could be used for versioning of assets, basically, and other
Yes,
things. But that's one use case, right?
Yes, we say that we can have versioning in this, because even the SSI entries. So the deed itself doesn't have a versioning. So only
Right.
the last state of the deed that has a version. But we use the SSI reference of the that we have here, and there is a version associated to it. So for example, one of the rules of validating the key, it needs to be the key of the owner. So just the owner of this piece of data is able to modify it. But this key needs to be valid when the event is submitted to Cardano. So if the user rotates the keys, the event is still valid. So rotating the key doesn't invalidate the event.
Right. Yeah. No. I understand that. But let's say I can control that. Like I want to use Cardano as basically like what this is, as a registry for the data mutations that I do in a certain document using this technology. So basically, I create a date, I create my first event for the BDR, referencing that date, and then when that data changes, and I need to notify everyone, hey, here's the last version of this is the last source of truth. I just send an update. I control that data, so I just send an update, say, yep, here it is. And I can reference that as a file, basically URL, that the resolver for the VDR can know how to handle Cardano and all that. Assuming you have to resolve it with VDR, it can verify the integrity of that data using this, and it can have events. Basically, new versions are basically new events on the blockchain. From that perspective, it's not that what's actually happening, but I'm using it that way, basically.
So I'm not sure if this was clear. So when we create the event, there is the hash of this event, this create entry. The hash of it is the identity of it.
Yeah.
So when we update it, the reference is still the same. So we don't care. You can have the hash.
The date stays the same. The date, like UUID,
exactly.
stays the same.
It's the same logic.
But it resolves on the blockchain. I can reference always the same file, but I can, through updates on the data and the blockchain, the actual data can mutate, and that can be reflected in the metadata of those updates. But the reference is always the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Okay. Yeah. No, that's what I mean. Like it's very useful because now I can have a single reference everywhere in my credentials, and I can also have versioning of the data that I'm signing, because it's essentially like a file name or a URL, but I can have the story of that in different updates to the chain and can see how that was modified by whom, when, and all that. All that metadata that I care about in the ledger. Having a single point of source of truth. Okay, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, Robert. Sorry, Fabio. It's true, but you need to probably specify some kind of special resource for this purpose, because we thought about some SSI resources like revocation lists and other.
Yeah, I was going to get to there.
Okay.
So we already talked about when I mentioned 3 steps was the indexing all the events that group together. So here in that there is no much space for expanding and not being a breaking change. So then we talk about validating, where I reserve some fields that needs to be validated, and if it's missing, it's considered valid, and at least one of those fields needs to be present. So here there are space for validating in the future, but this doesn't break the previous step. So indexing and putting together, it still works, but validating it can be done on some other system like the mobile or something like that. So you give all the events, and the mobile needs to resolve what is the valid change, and the last step is to from that change to build the data itself. So, and here is where it's more expandable. So we have only two types now. So we have like bytes.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put the bytes, it's those bytes, and when you update the bytes, is basically replacing the bytes.
Yeah.
And the same thing from the APFS entries. So it's a string. So when you create, you put that string, and when you update, you replace that string. But this list is supposed to be expanded. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to support the use case for revocation, where you have like a status list that it starts valid, and then you flip a byte and the status is no longer valid, or it's invalid, or have more status. And this is like in the protobuf, anyone can expand on this. So after getting that valid list of change, we need to build on those lists. So it doesn't need to be the replacing as we do for the bytes. It can be some smart bytes, like we could have the diffs on. We can add a new type of bytes that is more advanced. I was talking with Gonzalo the other day. That is like you put the bytes there, and then you append the bytes or pre-append the bytes, or
yeah. But that's up to whoever is using this, however they want it. I mean, it's just bytes. It can be anything, right? Or it has to. Or what were you saying? Like you're thinking an update will just send a diff of like a patch only?
Yeah, it's more like a patch. So you don't need to like replace all the bytes. For example, imagine that you want to put a big document in Cardano. We can create a new type that is like, okay, this is put it by steps. So it has the initial data, and since we cannot fit all in one single transaction, it needs to be several steps. And you can like store some JSON that is bigger than one transaction. That is just one use case. Another one would be to the revocation list. You just need to flip one byte. You don't need to replace the full list of bytes. But this is intended to be expanded by the user or anyone that wants to use. So all the properties about how to put on Cardano to validate the change, it's done on these specs, and then here you can put new types of data that allows you to encode the data that you want, and then you need to resolve it. But that can be done on the mobile or something like that.
Okay, now question. So this is by the protocol, like it's always a patch? Or, well, it's still, even if it's always a patch, there's nothing stopping you from replacing the whole byte array, like as a patch, right? So if you think about it, it's the same. It's only like, okay, by design, this instruction is just a patch on the previous one. Even if it might be just change the whole thing in one go, right? And that means you can save costs, make a cheaper transaction, and etc. Or divide a bigger file in chunks, all that kind of thing. But those are like more complex sort of situation. But nothing stopping you from an update saying, here's a patch that changes the whole byte array of the thing.
Yes. So, but that is the goal, and it's not to be specified on this by this specification. So we allow the user to do that. So if the user comes with a new use case, they just like reserve a number, like a very big number, or I'm going to add a section about that, how to have custom. And the goal is for the user to to use all the mechanisms, so the indexer, the validator, and he only cares about the data.
Isn't there a maximum amount of bytes you can put through a smart contract transaction? Or unless you have to chain them?
You talking about the Cardano metadata size, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's okay, I don't have it here, but there's a limit for the size of the transaction that you can insert on Cardano.
Yeah. Just making sure, Roberto, you're aware that when you're talking about, like, the blockchain is still meant to be resource constrained and not really meant for, like, when you're talking about reference to IPFS, that's fine, right? But like,
No.
you're still
asking, for
throttled
example,
by the actual ability to write to the chain at any one time.
Yeah, but I will use it to write just, say, hashes of files.
I know, but even yeah, I get that. I mean, yes, just letting you know, there's another throttle that's out of our control, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
so
okay,
that's a good point.
Well, more questions. So when I see E700 and E800, those are just the positions that are reserved for just random bytes by the protocol and an identifier, right? But on an actual implementation, I could use, like, okay, E7102 or 200, and that for me means whatever, right?
Yes, so you could just add new types of 200, for example, in here, and would be, you do whatever you want with those bytes. So the goal of the indexer, so as we described it, the goal of the indexer is to group, and if possible, to validate the chain. But what you do with that chain is to convert that chain of events into data itself. You do it whatever you want with it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So if
I
you
could
don't
have
like
multiple entries meaning different things,
yes,
and it's just for me, right? And then the indexer basically cares of looking up on those specific positions and making sure everything is compliant, and everything else is just ignored. Like, you can do whatever.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
And that's it. So I was putting here some of the constraints for the indexer, basically the same constraints that we had on the Prisma did. So it depends on what how ahead of the blockchain do we want to be, or we need like to be at least a settled time behind the blockchain to be considered those change applied. We also have that constraint about space that I didn't mention anywhere. I should like put it here. I think I have somewhere in the document some considerations about security that is basically the same that we had on the DIT Prisma.
Cool.
More questions about these specs. Okay, just one other thing is that this is like, that thing was the specification, but this repository that using that specification has implementation for the generic VDR interface that Gonçalo presented a few months ago. So the implementation here uses that protocol that we define to store data on Cardano, and it has the same interface that is in the VDR that Gonçalo presented. And it's using, for now, it's using only the bytes. So you put the bytes there, or you replace the bytes. So we have implementation. It's already on Maven. We are going to integrate on the cloud agent. Pat is working on that. So this is
Cool.
for the last milestone.
the implementation for the cloud agent will be on the revocation list, right?
Not sure what are the use cases that we are covering on the cloud agent.
Okay.
Not yet, Roberto. First of all, we need to finish the specifications and drivers, and then switch to the use case and adoption of particular scenarios. But it's possible to switch revocation from the database and our list to the VDR later.
Yeah, but so for the revocation list, I had it here another entry, but it was not ready, so I removed it from this document. But the goal is to have something to cover that use case for revocation.
Okay. And question. So from the cloud agent's perspective, would are you guys thinking adding endpoints to the cloud agents so it can be used, like it can be used for writing to the VDR, you know, like you do submitting the Prism, then the cloud agent, it has everything it needs really to kind of abstract this whole thing over cloud agents API endpoints. And that will be very useful because now you just run the agent and you have also the ability to write using the Prism VDR, whatever data you need to, and then reference that, you know, on VCs or whatever else you have. So is this you know, something that could be useful for the future? Or it's just like only going to be used internally by the cloud agent to do something, whatever the use case is? Or it's just exposing the cloud agent or using cloud agent infrastructure to expose endpoints that will allow anyone running the cloud agent to just write using the Prism VDR?
Not sure what are the use cases. Maybe Pat can talk a little bit more about it. So the cloud agent uses the interface, the generic interface of VDR that Gonzalo presented for some use cases, and I think it's just we have a few new endpoints that allows the user to put data there. Maybe Yuri or Pat can talk more about it.
But do you want to say something, or can I just share my thoughts? Okay. Roberto, there are a couple of options that we can implement, and we are going to run some architecture discussions about using VDR drivers, NeoPrism, and BlockFrost. Probably we might implement another driver in TypeScript to support web applications, or create some API in Cloud Agent or NeoPrism to publish this data. So there are a variety of options, and we need to figure out what is the most generic way to do this. So probably we can create the discussions in GitHub in a couple of weeks, or even right now, and start brainstorming about the right way to integrate it into the Identus platform. We have these deliverables in 4th and 5th milestones of the VDR project.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, no, I know the deliverable is not, I don't think that it's part of the scope of the deliverable. I was just thinking, okay, the agent has everything it needs to kind of, you know, add endpoints that could be used to use the Prism VDR implementation, and just add, you know, data, or use like new endpoints that will allow you to easily run that instead of a separate piece of software that you have to run that implements the driver. But yeah, but again, I think it all depends on where you want to use those drivers. Like if it's going to be by the SDKs, that's also helpful. And actually, it's great because it also means you have the ability to write yourself on chain, like the whole effort to have signing the transactions using like a SIP30 compatible wallet and writing bits on chain could be used to do this as well, right? To write the
Yeah,
Prism
so
VDR.
the mechanism is very similar. It's basically the one that is indexing the SSIs, the deeds, it's used also to index everything in here. So validating has a few more rules, but the indexer is basically the same. Validating has those rules that I was mentioning. So it doesn't have the keys. The keys needs to be from the SSI entry. It needs to, like the protobuf itself is slightly different. So it has different protobufs that it needs to interpret. And then the data, resolving the data, that is more responsibility of the user. So we are going to have that one for bytes, but the data, any other type of data needs to be the user to resolve it.
Yeah, but as long as there's like the basic implementation will check, and you can extend that, right? You have a class that you can extend or something, an object where it does the basic checks, and then you add your own checks on top of that, and then work with that.
Yeah, I think Pat also has implementation already for this VDR. So I think he already used the same one that he had for the deeds, added the protobufs, and it's already grouping the protobufs together. So and validating. So it's grouping and validating the protobufs, resolving the data that again is responsibility of the user. So in terms of implementation, we already I think we already have 2 implementations. We have some bugs that needs to be fixed, but that's it. So this document is still on the draft and for a few more months until the last milestone. I'm not sure where is the last milestone. So if you have any questions or things that we should like improve, just open issues and we can like changing without any problems. Yeah.
Thank you, Fabio. Really tremendous efforts and 54 minutes of presentation. It's amazing. So
yeah, I was all over the place. Sorry about that.
No. I asked for 15 minutes, but yeah, 50 to 54 is really cool. The final milestone is December 11. So we have plenty of time to deliver 2 more milestones. Fourth is about integrating the driver into the cloud agent. And the fifth is about adding this to the platform and close everything together.
Yeah, so on that milestone, we want to make the proposal not draft anymore. So until there, we can change anything without being a breaking change. But after that, we need not to do breaking changes. And we are covering for future expansion of this document. And so on that last milestone, we also need to do a workshop. So we need to prepare that workshop and integrating with the VDR and just finish just making things slightly without testing the VDR because it was not that tested until now, but it's almost everything done. So we have some room for improvements if anyone wants to do improvements on this document. Yeah. And that's it.
Thank you, Fabio. John Roberto, you are welcome to ask any questions about VDR in the Discord channel or create the corresponding GitHub discussion so we can align with particular use cases and figure out if it's perfect for majority of use cases. Okay?
Cool. Great job.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Fabio, for hosting the meeting and for the great presentation. Any other urgent questions? We have 4 more minutes.
Nope.
Great. Thank you, guys. Then see you in 1 week.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Two.
More parts and salutes.